The Department of Labor and Industry's top priority is to make sure Minnesota workers stay safe and healthy. We understand there may be some confusion for workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. This video addresses some of the confusion by reviewing worker protections related to COVID-19, such as workplace safety and health, sick leave, final wages, workers' compensation, and other worker protections. Our agency's goal is to be a trusted resource for businesses and workers. Contact us if you have questions about your rights and responsibilities in the workplace. If needed, our agency has access to free language translation services for limited English speakers. Contact us and we will get in touch with an interpreter.
Up first in this video, we'll discuss workplace safety and health. The Minnesota Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or Minnesota OSHA, ensures safe and healthy working conditions for workers by setting and enforcing laws and providing assistance, training, and education. The Department of Labor and Industry enforces these laws and helps employers who want to learn how to improve safety and health at their work sites. Employers and employees are required to follow Minnesota OSHA standards. Workers must be provided information about any hazardous chemicals, substances, or infectious agents they are exposed to at work. Coronavirus is considered to be an infectious agent. Employers must provide training to their employees on working with an infectious agent or hazardous chemicals or substances prior to employees starting work, whenever a new hazard is introduced, and at least annually thereafter. Workers exposed to hazardous substances, such as cleaning chemicals, must have access to personal protective equipment, such as masks and gloves, which their employer is required to pay for and provide. Employees must also receive training to understand how to properly use this equipment to protect themselves from the hazard. You have a right to request a safety or health inspection, and the right to refuse to work under conditions if you believe there is a present and immediate danger to you of serious physical harm or death. You also have a right to file a complaint about workplace safety and health hazards with Minnesota OSHA, and you can request your name not be revealed to your employer. After a complaint is filed, Minnesota OSHA investigators review the information and follow up with the employer listed in the complaint. You should know your employer may not retaliate against you for reporting health and safety concerns at work. If you believe your employer retaliated against you, you may file a complaint with Minnesota OSHA within 30 days of the adverse employment action. Next, we'll talk about labor laws in Minnesota. The Department of Labor and Industry's Labor Standards Unit provides information to employers and employees about the state's wage, hour, and employment laws. Here are some frequently asked questions Labor Standards has received in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Question: does an employer have to grant leave to an employee who is sick or who is caring for a family member that is sick?
If your employer allows you to take time off for your own illness, your employer must also allow you to take time off to care for an ill minor child, adult child, spouse, sibling, parent, mother-in-law, father-in-law, grandchild, grandparent, or step-parent. Your employer must allow you to use your sick time in the same manner as the employer would allow you to use the leave for yourself. Then there is also the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, which requires a covered employer to provide employees job-protected, unpaid leave for specified family and medical reasons, which may include COVID-19, where complications arise. Keep in mind the cities of Duluth, Minneapolis, and St. Paul have their own paid sick leave requirements. Information about these requirements can be found on the city's websites. For questions about FMLA, contact the U.S. Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division.
Question: if an employer decides to change paid vacation, sick time, or paid time off accruals in the terms of their use or the wage rate of an employee, what is required?
Employers are required to provide written notice to employees of any changes in what's called an employee notice. All employees should receive an employee notice when starting a new job. This notice tells you how much you will be paid, when the regular payday will be, how much paid time off your employer offers, and other important information. Your employer is required to provide written notice of any changes to the notice prior to those changes taking effect. The change can be communicated in paper or electronic form.
Question: I'm laid off or my workplace temporarily closes. When is my employer required to pay me final wages?
Minnesota law provides that when an employer discharges an employee, the employee can make a demand for all wages earned, and those wages must be paid within 24 hours of the demand. If an employee is not discharged, but their employment is temporarily suspended, the employee must be paid on the regular payday. If your employment ends and your former employer has not paid you your final wages, there are several steps you can take to ensure you are paid all the wages you are due, including filing a wage claim. To learn more, visit our website or contact Labor Standards. If you lose your job or had your hours greatly reduced, you should apply for unemployment insurance benefits. For information about the unemployment insurance program and to apply for benefits, visit uimn.org. The Department of Labor and Industries Labor Standards staff members can help you understand your rights as a worker. Our website contains information about minimum wage, how much you should be paid for working overtime, what deductions your employer can make from your paycheck, parental leave, and other laws. For more information, visit our website. Let's discuss workers' compensation. In general, Minnesota employers are required to carry workers' compensation insurance coverage for their employees. In the event of a work-related injury or illness, you may be entitled to workers' compensation benefits, including payment for wage loss and medical benefits. If you believe you contracted COVID-19 because of your job, tell your employer immediately and seek medical attention. Keep a record of when you developed symptoms and when you notified your employer of those symptoms. Ask your healthcare provider for a COVID-19 test. If a test is not available, request that your healthcare provider document that a test was not available and provide a diagnosis of your illness. Provide a copy of any positive COVID-19 test results or diagnosis to your employer or your employer's insurer. An employer is required to complete a form and submit it to its workers' compensation insurance company within 10 days of when an employee reported a work-related injury or illness, or the employer knew of an employee's injury or illness that could be work-related. An employer must report serious injuries within 48 hours. An employer must also send a copy of the form to the employee along with a workers' compensation information sheet. If you are not ill but must stay home from work because you were exposed to the virus, you are not entitled to workers' compensation benefits under current law. As of April 8, 2020, a new law states that certain employees who contract COVID-19 are presumed to have an occupational disease covered by Minnesota workers' compensation law. Employees covered under this new law include emergency responders, certain employees at a corrections, detention, or secure treatment facility, certain employees in a health care, home care, or long-term care setting, and a person required to provide child care to first responders and healthcare workers under the governor's executive orders. An employee may claim workers' compensation benefits even if they don't fall within one of these occupations, if they can show they contracted the disease due to their employment. Every case is fact-specific. Contact the Workers' Compensation Division if you have a question about whether you are entitled to workers' compensation benefits. Now, here are some frequently asked questions about workers' compensation and COVID-19.
Question: can my employer ask or require me to sign a waiver of liability that prevents me from filing a claim for workers' compensation if I contract COVID-19?
No, agreements to waive workers' compensation rights are prohibited under state law. An employer cannot require an employee to sign a waiver or other form agreeing that the employer is not liable if the employee contracts COVID-19 at work, threaten an employee with firing, or other adverse employment action for refusing to sign the waiver. An employer may not discriminate against an employee for reporting an injury or any other claim related to employment protection or benefits provided by Minnesota law. An employer is liable for civil damages to an employee for obstructing, discharging, or threatening to discharge an employee for seeking workers' compensation benefits. If you have any questions about these laws, or if you have been asked to sign a waiver, contact the Workers' Compensation Division.
Question: can I get workers' compensation and also collect unemployment?
Unemployment benefits are provided to workers who have been laid off or otherwise had their jobs impacted due to business-related circumstances. Workers' compensation wage loss benefits are available to workers who suffer a work-related injury or illness that prevents them from performing their job duties. Workers' compensation benefits are paid before any unemployment benefits. Generally, workers may not collect both types of benefits at the same time. However, in limited situations, you may be eligible for both if your workers' compensation benefits would be less than your unemployment benefits during the same period of time. When workers' compensation benefits are more than the unemployment benefits during the same time period, you are not eligible for unemployment benefits.
The Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry is here to help you understand your rights during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you have questions, contact us online or by phone.